everyone, I'm Gemma Beall, and today I am sitting outside doing the recording because it's so nice outside and nature's singing me a beautiful chorus, but we also have humans out here popping firecrackers, so if you hear some pops, it's not gunfire, it's just firecrackers. Happy 4th of July. It seems that everyone has an opinion and everyone thinks they must share their opinion, especially where sharing information is concerned. In this presentation, I'm going to discuss reasons to share information, experiences, and insights rather than sharing opinions. I've never been a person that likes attention of any kind, good or bad, and because of this, I used to experience physiological and psychological anxiety if I was getting any attention. This was also a reason that although I was social in my younger years, it was superficial, meaning that I didn't share with others the deeper part of who I am. The Soika path is about not only discovering who you are at your deepest level, it's about reclaiming who you are and being authentic to you, your Soika, and not being what society and everyone else wants and expects you to be. I share my path and my experiences with others for various reasons, though the reasons I share now are not the reasons I began sharing in the first place. There are those out there that think that we share what we've learned because we're egotistical, and in this presentation I'm going to explain why sharing your path and your experiences with others isn't necessarily egotistical. The definition of egotistical is excessively conceited or absorbed in oneself, self-centered. Most people know that someone that is arrogant is egotistical, but most people fail to realize that insecurity in oneself is equally as egotistical, because even though a person is insecure within themselves and in their mind, that insecurity is still self-centered. There's a great difference between confidence and arrogance. In our welcome video, I listed some definitions for you all to keep in mind, and arrogant and confidence were two of those words. Arrogant means having or revealing an exaggerated sense of one's own self-importance or abilities. Insecurity means uncertainty or anxiety about oneself, lack of confidence, while confidence means the state of feeling certain about the truth of something, a feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's own abilities or qualities. I hate using arrogant insecurity as an example of polarity because of the false dualistic nature of the first cognition, but in this case, these two are opposite characteristics of ego nature. Confidence, on the other hand, is the fine line between the two, and it is the operating function of the second cognition, Soika. Motivation is the driving force behind consciousness and the ego, but the motivational factor is where the difference lies. Motivation is defined as the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way. This definition is appropriate for both first cognition arrogant insecurity ego nature and second cognition Soika confidence. My motivation for sharing my path when I began sharing my path over a decade ago was egotistical because at that time I was still controlled by my Hapim monster. Sharing at that time was a tool for me to combat my anxiety and insecurity where opening up to others was concerned. When I began sharing my journey in my first book 2 years ago, I was no longer operating under the influence of my Hapim, and my motivation then was solely to help others not get stuck in the New Age quagmire like I had done. In the time since I began collaborating on these videos, I learned a very important lesson about sharing and why I highly encourage everyone to share their journeys. Though this motivation is Soika focused, not self-centered. This is why we tell you that even though these are our journeys and what we've learned along the way, it is the information that is important. We aren't. I don't know about you, but for me, I've always been a sporadic journaler. I would go through phases of journaling my journey, and then I would stop because I felt so stupid writing to myself about this stuff. What was worse was going back at a later point in time and reading my journals and cringing at how pathetic I deemed myself to be at that previous point of my path. This type of internal mental behavior is not confidence. It is still Hapim habits at play in the mind. I could see this clearly in myself when Endel told me I should write a book for the series. So, in order to remove the Hapim habits, I gladly tackled the task. I realized in the process that there's no point on my path that isn't as important as to where I am now in my personal cognitive and perceptual awareness development, and where I am now is no less important to my path as where I will be in a year from now. What I realized in reviewing my journals while writing my first book was that my journals were extremely bare bones and didn't chronicle the deep, intricate feelings and thoughts that I experienced at the time. Calling back up the memories along my path and trying to explain it to others through the book, I realized how limited journals really are, because until we begin trying to explain or share our paths and the knowledge with others, we really don't dig deep within ourselves or contemplate information and experiences heavily in order to gain understanding and realizations of our known information and previous experience and perceptions. What I also didn't do was revisit my own thoughts, perceptions, and recounts of my experiences to realize how much my awareness has changed by how much my perceptions of my experiences have changed. It is in formulating how to share your thoughts, insights, and experiences with others, it allows you to go deeper within and contemplate everything from a different perspective. Since writing my first book, I've revisited my own material several times, and each time I've revisited it, I've gained better understanding and realizations of my own experiences. I've had other people tell me I'm arrogant for reading my own book, but I ask this: are you arrogant for reading your own journals? What would make me doing this arrogant? What would make it not arrogant? I don't read my own books because I'm enamored of my own writing skills. I know it's not perfect. I revisit my own books to remember my level of awareness that I was at when I wrote it, and to see the greater depths of information I understood then and how much better I understand it now. Once I made the choice to share with others, it was amazing to me how much my observational skills improved and how much more information I would get from going within, and how much more realizations I would have in just reviewing the information in my own mind. So now, my motivation for sharing has not changed from wanting to help others, but I also have the new motivation of sharing because it better helps me advance my own journey and gain realizations I wouldn't have had if I hadn't delved further into my own mind. Sharing with others and hearing the experiences and realizations of others also helps both of us gain better understanding of our shared information as well. In the time I've been sharing my journeys, both in book form and collaborating on the videos, my own awareness has expanded almost daily because of sharing and trying to put my journeys into a format for others to hear. I also experience listening, and I do mean actually listening to others without trying to mentally jump to conclusions or allowing words and concepts to distract me from listening to what they're saying. This doesn't mean I always agree with the perspective that I'm listening to, but I keep my observations to myself and just listen and actually hearing their stories. Then I will take the information shared with me into my own mind to contemplate it, to see if or how the information applies to my path or not. I've gained a lot of great information from within by doing this, not necessarily from the other person's perspective, but from contemplating it in my own mind to see a greater expanded view of the information. This is a problem that I think we all experience in our own minds if we were to be completely honest with ourselves. You are the only one that could see within your mind and how you process information. What are the thought processes that you go through when listening to others, especially where consciousness is concerned? Do you sit there and nod your head in agreement with what you hear, or do you physically and mentally balk when you hear something you don't agree with? In your mind, do you automatically start playing your own perceptions of the information you are hearing and end up not listening to what else is being said? This process is what I call the internal measurement. You could be agreeing with or disagreeing with what you are processing, it doesn't matter, but the measuring tool is still in operation. We've been classically conditioned to use our pre-existing filters, perceptions, and information as the foundation for everything that we process when it pertains to information. But when we are doing this in our minds, are we still listening to the full message, or did we stop mentally processing what we are hearing in lieu of our own pre-existing factors? This type of mental gymnastics is one of the roadblocks to greater understanding. I mean, seriously, how can you gain understanding if you can't pay attention long enough to hear the rest of the information? I personally keep a notebook handy at all times, so when I'm going through and listening to others, I take notes on things that jump out at me and continue listening to the presentation until it's finished. And then I go within my mind and contemplate the information that jumps out at me, even if the information that I disagree with from my own experiences. I don't discount anything or make assumptions that the other person has it wrong. I go into observation mode in my mind and embrace the idea or concept as if I do agree with it, and then I allow the feel of the information to guide me, to guide my psyche, and then I begin the questioning process to expand on the information so I know whether to discard it or continue to expand it further. Sometimes I reach no conclusion at that time, but I will go back and look at it from other angles at later times. This is how contemplation works. This is how you expand yourself and grow yourself, by continually revisiting what you agree with and what you don't, and feeling how that information feels to your psyche. As I said, I highly encourage everyone to not journal, but to write about their thoughts and experiences as if they're going to present it to others. This way, they maximize the details they share in order to paint a broad picture for understanding, and for others and for yourself. You don't have to really share it with anyone, but it does help in writing as if that's what you intend to do. Everyone knows what a clock is, but how many of you know how it works? I'm not talking about an electronic clock, but one of the old-timey ones with a face and hands and pendulums. I don't know how they work, but do I really think about it? Well, I do, because my psychic nature wants to understand how everything operates. But do you? Our internal workings are like that of a clock. Other than noticing if the hands move or don't move, we typically don't think about the internal workings of a clock. The clock is not just the hands moving and the pendulum swinging. There are many factors inside the internal workings that makes a clock tell time. I think they can be referred to as precision instruments and gears, but in order for a clock to properly function, all of its components must be in proper working order. And to ensure that they are, you have to be aware of the internal components. Well, if you're a clockmaker, you do. Us humans, on the other hand, no pun intended, are similar in our internal workings in that there are processes and precision to our internal mental workings, but most people don't pay attention to the internal mental processes. You don't have to be a psychologist to understand your internal workings and your mental processes. There are others that we are working with, and as an assignment, I've asked them to write about their past to share with others, and I'll share them with you guys as we're doing with our stuff. As you listen to these journeys, please keep in mind your mental processes when you are listening, so you can review what takes place in your own mind and hear some great information in the process. Here is my friend Crystal.
My journey has been as unique to me as yours is to you. That is one of the things I've learned since I was able to expand my perceptions and view this reality in a completely different light. The life that I've been living was one of lies and control. As children, we are indoctrinated into a world that is controlled by forces most don't even know exist. We're all victim to this. This victim mentality is rampant in our society and used to keep us under that very control. We are taught to search outside of ourselves to find answers. Let the authorities tell you all you need to know. And don't forget about conformity. Always do like the rest and don't color outside of the lines. Unaware parents teach their children what they know, and the lies have been here for so long and the truth hidden that most have no clue this is all false reality. It has been passed down from generation to generation, indoctrinating the masses. The school system was my first indoctrination mill. Have you ever thought of how it is decided what we learn in school? Who is in control of these standards? And who writes the books that serve as fact for us to memorize and recite? Why do we have a system that caters to one style of learning? These questions had never come to my mind before. As my perceptions expand, I begin to ask these kinds of questions and realize how much control has been placed without even knowing. And we go through our lives feeling like we are free to think as we wish when we are honestly being fed information that others want us to believe. "A mind is a terrible thing to waste," is a slogan that was used during the 1970s. I remembered it while writing this information. I hadn't heard it in such a long time, but the power of this obviously worked. If a slogan from the 70s can still play in one's head 40 years later, imagine the control this can have on a population, and that is just one example of the many. These types of media slogans and propaganda are everywhere in our lives. Marketing capitalizes on this and tricks an unsuspecting person into doing what they want us to do. I can think back to many times that I bought something that I thought I had to have just to get it home and never even use it. I now have awareness of this and am able to think for myself and decide if I need something or not. I am gaining control over myself and not allowing others to dictate my reality. But I had to become aware of these practices and see them for what they are. This is seen at such a young age, with school children wanting to wear the best clothes and have the latest technology. They want to have the same things as their friends or what the kids on their favorite TV shows have. The Beall virus or ego habits control society with a herd mentality. We are taught to fit in and be like everyone else. No one wants to be the last one picked on the team. The fear of being made fun of for being different is seen early on and works wonders to keep us in line. And some of us became part of the in crowd. That served as a stress just as great, if not worse, from my perspective. The pressure of keeping up with this type of peer pressure only reinforced the herd mentality and fear. Religion was introduced to me when I was a bit older than some who are born into this type of indoctrination. I was taken to church at 8 years old and taught Christianity. I remember my grandmother telling me what it meant to be a Christian, and to this day I can remember it was a matter of fact. There was no choice. I was a Christian. And I never even thought of questioning it because the repercussions of that would mean I live eternity in hell. Talk about placing some fear in a child. It was so common to speak of this and to hear friends talk of going to church that I just followed like a good little girl. Attending church was short-lived for me as my parents weren't members. I was taken by my grandmother on occasion only. I was again introduced when I was in high school when I went there because there were cute boys involved. But I digress. The point I make is that even though I didn't have huge pressure of attending church, the control of religion was set at an early age and questioning it wasn't an option. I didn't truly begin to question the subject of God until more recent years. A series of events opened my eyes to the control that religion really is. I do not need a higher authority to tell me what is right and wrong. I'm in control of myself and allow others to do the same. I do not require fear to keep me from trespassing against others. The pressure of that control has been lifted and for me has been a truly freeing experience. I can see the division amongst human beings all in the name of God. Everyone believes theirs is the right religion and do not allow others to believe as they wish. That system of control has no power over me any longer. The problem lies with humanity and the Beall habits controlling them so that some trespass against others. We have to get to a point where we can basically keep our hands to ourselves and allow others to live as they want to live. We're so engaged in what others are doing and not looking at ourselves first. Pointing fingers at another person takes the spotlight off of ourselves and our shortcomings. We all need to tend to our own yards before we can look at our neighbors. Looking at oneself takes courage and can be very sobering. When I looked at myself and my part in life's dramas, I realized how much of it I caused but was blaming others. This wasn't easy, but it was freeing in the fact that I could fix what needed to be fixed. I had gained my control. I'm learning to question things I am told and not take everything as fact. In the past, I had placed others above me and felt a lesser being. I know that we all have our own existence and no one is above another. I respect ones who share their knowledge and experience as guidance, but not as my authority. I listen to the information presented to me and try and feel how it relates to me or my growth. The programming and filters are so deeply ingrained that this is not a quick and easy process. The path isn't straight and smooth, but rocky and very winding. It is truly one well worth picking. I cannot imagine turning back. I have learned things that have expanded my perceptions and grown me. Living in the now is a catchphrase I hear so often, but it has true meaning to me. I am here now, focused on this task at hand and not thinking of what is next on my agenda. This is a challenge daily, as it has become a habit to multitask as often as I can. This is a top behavior and one that may not be serving me well, so I will continue to break that habit. I am learning that focusing on one thing at a time can get the job done more efficiently and with better quality. Feeling my way through life is where I am at the moment, and catching myself thinking about things too much is another habit to break. Being able to truly feel without thinking it through too much can allow the experience to be mine and not what was intended by others. I am able to allow my Soika to guide me and not the programming and tyrannical control that was placed at such a young age. When I get into my head too much and overthink a situation, the filtering taints the experiences. I am doing the hard work to break the habits and see the filtering that comes with our life's experiences. I know that what I speak of today will be altered later as I expand my awareness. The more I learn, the more I realize that I really don't know shit. I do know that this is a long and difficult road, but well worth it. I will continue to observe my behaviors and expand my perceptions in this never-ending process. When self-doubt rears its ugly head, I will analyze its presence and push aside and move on. I am confident that I am where I need to be at this very moment.
I want to thank Crystal for sharing her journey. An opinion is defined as a view or judgment about something, not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. What we're doing with the majority of our work and what our friends have contributed here is not opinion, nor is it merely perceptions. It is understanding and realizations of our own knowledge and experiences regarding our own individual paths in the form of a knowing. We do know and realize that what we know right now is not the full understanding or realizations of it as we continue to raise our perceptual and cognitive awareness. There are times that Endel and I have offered up our opinions on matters, and in those times we do state that it's our opinions. However, where other people's journeys are concerned, your opinion has no place outside of your own mind, as our opinions of your journey has no place outside of our minds. This is something that we all need to remember and consider when listening to others share their personal journeys. If you've been with us for a while and noticed the comments section on our videos when they were open, you will notice not only other people's opinions of us as individuals and our journeys, but why do they feel the need to share those opinions, especially the negative ones? If you carry this observation further in your mind, look at other places on the internet, like Facebook, Yahoo News, or any other news source. They deliberately ask for people's opinions and reactions when people shouldn't be offering up opinions and damn sure shouldn't be reacting to things that don't concern them. They do this to condition us that our opinions matter on everything, when they don't. The controllers do this because it sows further conflict and emotional energies that they use to keep us divided amongst ourselves. I mean, seriously, how can we share knowledge and insights with others if the others are sitting there not listening and just throwing out their opinions? We all have a lot of obstacles and internal controls that have been put on us that keeps our consciousness held captive, and they've conditioned us to be our own jailers. Now it's time for us to share with each other and listen to each other and support each other and not tear each other down or try to tear each other apart. Share your thoughts and experiences with others and allow others to share their thoughts and experiences with you. Don't share opinions about things you don't know or don't understand, especially if it isn't going to positively benefit the growth for others and yourself. Observe yourself in your own mind and know that when you do this, always ask yourself, does this build both of us up or only me? Thank you for joining us all today. I'm Gemma Beall. Until next time, stay the course and don't give up on yourself.